What's up, guys? Calisthenics here, and today I want to to you about why you're not making gains with calisthenics. And some of these reasons might be a bit surprising, but it's actually the full reason why, you're probably plateauing in your progress and how you can actually, make gains every session. But first, we need to understand something. What we need to understand here is the physiology of the muscles, right? We are bound by one physiological law of the universe, so there's only one valid theory in exercise building. And, in order to do that, we have to induce, change to it, which is, training to failure, to induce, high intensity muscular contractions and to show the most growth overall. The muscles is a very interesting thing because, a lot of people take their own, put their own takes to it and everything. But what you need to understand is that, it's physiological, right? We are bound by, one set of rules. Obviously, there's little things of such genetics and such, etc., that we respond differently, and for example, bodybuilders respond to a different frequency of training. The more they train, the bigger, they get, which they literally change the cells of their body, not natty whatsoever. And that's not okay. Overall, when you increase strength, you increase muscle, right? And this is supported by the theory, or not theory, literally a law of the human body of the muscle cross-sectional area. So basically, when we get stronger each session, for example, right here, let's say for example is the 15 reps, rest, session 2, you hit 20 reps, rest, and then session 3, you hit 40 reps. Now, how is this actually possible, right? Well, it's the more you get at it, the more you get better at it, sure, but it's that provided that, we do these exercises with more strength movements, right? Because at that point it gets like really hard, but then, you rest and then, your body naturally adapts to that. And then, once you rest again, then it just keeps getting stronger and stronger, right? And usually strength gain will precede more than muscle growth. So first going to be seeing more strength gains before you're going to be seeing more muscle growth. And strength gains precede muscle growth. And so each session, if you're increasing reps, that means you're getting stronger at doing the movement. That's the number one indicator, right? And week by week, session by session, every workout by workout, when this number increases, you are getting stronger. So you have to, eventually put the progressive overload by putting the reps back at 6 to 10 reps, and to 10 to 20 reps or however you want to progress, right? As long as you're going to all out muscular failure, which will we discuss in the upcoming video. And so each session, if you're increasing reps, that means you're getting stronger at doing the movement. That's the number one indicator, right? Week by week, session by session, every workout by workout, when this number increases, you are getting stronger. So you have to, eventually put the progressive overload by putting the reps back at 6 to 10 reps, and to 10 to 20 reps or however you want to progress, right? As long as you're going to all out muscular failure, which will we discuss in the upcoming video. So reason number one, you have too much high volume in your workouts. This is a common notion in calisthenics, and these people's splits are insane. Like 100 push-ups, 100 pull-ups, etc., etc. You're not allowing for enough growth and recovery, right? And a common notion within the fitness niche for calisthenics is that, in order to build muscle, you need to have high volume, and so that when it is common for the gap between and the strength curve between the beginner and intermediate athletes is not that much, right? So excuse me, the beginner and intermediate gap is not that much, right? So when you make that strength curve and when you make that strength gains, it's not really that, your body's adapted to all the stimulus. Like, you could probably drop down and give me 50 push-ups, right? And even if you aren't, you'll still find that, body weight fitness is such just an interesting thing to do, But after you've adapted and well enough, you start putting in like random exercise, like for push, like handstand push-up session. 100 push-ups, we'll do drop set like 4 by 30 reps, and it's just absolutely insane, and the high volume is just so terrible. So I used to fall in this pit hole of just adding more volume and more volume in order to make progress. And at first I was making progress, but then my brain couldn't think right, and I just had to keep thinking that okay, if I want to get better, I have to add more stuff. That is the opposite of what we're going for. Because the thing with the human body is that as you get more and more things, the recuperative ability to, growth and recover is just hindered by you having so much volume, and there are physiological and anatomical laws of the human body we must utilize in order to make the most progress, right? So high volume will lead to burnout, overtraining, and overall counterintuitiveness for muscle gains, right? If you're training in a high volume split, no energy is left in order to recuperate after the workouts, leaving little to no gains, and energy is a finite thing. I understand that as you grow bigger and stronger, you'll adapt to this, but this is counterintuitive. And, instead, we must increase the intensity, right? We cannot carry on the workouts for so long that it'll deplete reserves of the body. And that, if we want to induce muscular tissue growth and biochemical changes of making progress towards something, we must allow for growth to be produced, not eliminated. And our bodies will adapt with a high quality routine, for example, right? This is what I would say would be a high quality workout, which is 1 to 2 sets to failure pull-ups, superset into chin-ups, and then that would be your growth stimulus for the day, You just need one superset of really high intensity training to failure, and then we'll go into high intensity as the next section of this video. But that's something that I really want you guys to understand is that when you have too much high volume, like you're not going to be making much progress, because when you don't allow for that growth and recovery, your body won't even get to achieve the moves that you would want, like planche or handstand push-ups. I will say that I'm not a very skills person. I train more for hypertrophy on the end, but even so, this still applies, is that you need to just be training, just normally. So overall, don't have too much high volume in your workouts, but instead a more high intensity workout. And the thing about also a high intensity is that you can't train long and high intensity either. You need to have low volume for the high intensity. Something else I'd like to address too is that the thing with high volume is that think of it like this as a feedback loop of where it's slowly a type of it's like a type of graph. So in a feedback loop there's words labeled, but let's just ignore that, right? And so the thing with the feedback loop is that your progress actually starts to diminish kind of with this type of thing, Is that, okay, right here, spike. Actually, wait, hold up. So, okay, right here, and then spike, in the high volume work, because, your body's constantly adapting, and then, it feels like this whole crazy thing, but, and then, it spikes again, and it spikes, but then slowly, though, this peak and this graph, it just starts getting lower and lower and lower, right? And that it's just, terrible. Right? And this is due to the fact of the physiological law of the human body of where you do so much high volume and your body can't recuperate and have enough growth and recovery in order to actually build the muscle that you literally destroyed and such, etc. And that has to go all the way down here. Compared to a short intensity and high volume, the graph would be along the lines of this. It's where we're constantly making upwards progress, right? Obviously, this is just a drawing, literally don't take it for word, this is not a whole like linear thing, but basically what I'm trying to say is that high volume is a common path of filled with fluff, which is just like workouts that are just filled with fluff, and that won't just work at all whatsoever, right? Compared to a high quality workout schedule and high quality exercises where you're not doing for too much sets and that you actually allow for growth and recovery, that is the best deal you're gonna get. Reason number two, you're not training to maximum failure. There's a big thing in the calisthenics fitness community is that, popularized by fitness FAQs, is that to stimulate growth, and you need to only be just a shy few reps before failure. Have a couple reps in reserve, and through the volume years of work of like just a few years of work with the volume combined, like yes, you will make muscular gains, but compared to that, you'd be making faster gains in less than half the time if you train to actual muscular failure, right? So just pretend this is a bicep here. Yeah, so just pretend this is a, a bicep here. But anyways, as I was saying, to stimulate growth and to actually create change in the human muscle, we need to train it to failure and to, you know, from homeostasis when the muscle is resting at a homeostasis place in, with the body and the physiologicalness, is that you need to actually make it change. You need to force change into it, which is training to failure. And so when you actually maximally contract hard and such, you're actually training it for the muscle to grow bigger in order to be stronger for the next session. That is muscle building 101, extremely simplified. If you want, a really in-depth, I recommend looking at Mike Mentor's work, Brad Schoenfield, etc. And just look at the hypertrophy stuff online. And obviously there will be mixed stuff like saying this way is better, that way is better. But as I said earlier, our bodies are bound by one law, which is to really contract it hard. So let's say that you have a person doing a push-up, right? And when you train a failure on that push-up, you will invoke changes in the chest. I don't know, that's like boobs. In the shoulders, a little bit of lat growth, etc. I know my drawings are terrible, but and the muscles that you use right for the push-up, it's gonna go stronger for the next session. Now, obviously, targeted muscle groups like the push-up is a really good exercise, and you can actually scale with it a little bit, especially if you have gymnastic rings. But to take this for the gym rigs, for example, chest fly, cable crossovers, dumbbell chest flies, incline press, etc., and you're hitting the chest from all angles, right? That's more targeted hypertrophy and training to failure, which in the gym is a little bit better than calisthenics, in my opinion, right? But we can still train it if you have gymnastic rings, for example, right here. So. And then you do the chest fly movement right here with the rings, which I will explain in more in-depth videos in the future for chest and stuff, etc. I know I have a weak chest, but yeah, that is training to failure in order to invoke actual muscle growth. So remember, high intensity muscular contractions in order to induce change and such. This will be explained in a further more researched video and topic, but basically just train to failure. So reason three, not enough rest. So there's an example that I'd like to give you, right? Imagine there's a hole. I know this is really bland, but just imagine that there's a hole, right? When you train, you destroy the things inside that hole, and then when you rest, you actually give it the time to actually build up and recover. And so when the noticeable change happens, it builds a mountain on top of that rest recovery hole. And let's just say, for example, this is a muscle, for example. This is not actually how the muscle looks like in a microscopic scale, but this is just an example that I can give you. But so first of all, when you give it enough time to recover and grow, the muscle will build on top of that. And it's actually been, according to research, that you need at least 2 to 3 days minimum, 3 days best for the actual growth to happen to the muscle, right? And this is a really big thing in, the fitness community because most people neglect rest. This is kind of building off of the intensity thing. And so when you train enough intensity to actually, incur growth and such, you have to give it time to actually, adapt and actually grow stronger. And when you grow stronger, most across conventional area, I mean sectional area, it's gonna build muscle, obviously. And so you're gonna be seeing progress straight from the first week of training this way of training to maximum failure. Most people in the fitness community will not give themselves enough rest, right? I know people who are training with the craziest splits, like 6 days a week, rest day Sunday, one day, and even bro splits, right? Bro splits is I suppose is a little exception, but even when you train bro split, you're still training which will tax the entire nervous system, etc., right? So we just want to give our body enough rest and recovery, right? And this is such a big thing in fitness, right? And when we let it recover, it's the most muscular gains possible. Reason number four, productive. Oh, wait. productive exercise selection, right? So what I mean by that is that when you want to make gains in a specific muscle part, for example, so let's say the tricep. I already made a video on triceps. So hold on, let me draw a tricep. Okay, so let's say this is a drawing. I know this looks like a terrible arm. Like I don't even know what this hand is, but let's say, for example, that we want to target our triceps, right? Which is right here. A lot of people would try diamond push-ups, diamond push-ups, regular push-ups, pike push-ups in order to, put load on the tricep. The thing is that the tricep, the anatomical motion of the tricep is to extend, right? Is to extend the hand from one position into the other. It's to extend the elbows, right? And so when we extend, that will target and put that is the natural movement of the triceps and of the muscle fibers. So we are training in that natural movement. So a really good example would be bodyweight tricep extensions, which is a really good exercise for targeting the triceps and such, and I have made a lot of tricep gain with that. So, bicep ring curls, it's also a really good hypertrophy exercise for the biceps, but other people instead would try to do like reverse grip push-ups, some really weird exercises, and exercises that fitness YouTubers make up in order to make it for their their marketing, etc. But we actually want to pick a certain biomechanical exercise that suits the biomechanics of the exercise, which is bicep ring curls, and it's the most anatomical motion of the biceps, which is using the biceps in order to load yourself up and pull yourself up, etc. Right? And the biceps actually is in the most optimal position when you're doing a regular standing bicep dumbbell curl, but this is the best and most optimized we are going to get for the biceps. And yes, you will make a lot of bicep gains doing this way, especially training to failure, etc. And maximal hypertrophy. Productive exercise selection would be exercise that makes you actually feel the muscle you want to target for such, right? So, adduction movements like uh, pull-ups, for example, are really great, especially head behind the bar pull-ups, when you target the abduction movement, you really feel it and such, right? So pull-ups are also a really awesome exercise for the lats, right? But if we really want to take it a step further and more anatomical motion, you pretend it's like a single one-arm lat row in with a cable, but instead you do that with the ring, etc., etc. Just especially with rings, I recommend that you ultimately have rings in order to replicate a certain gym exercise that will actually target it and have, the correct lever and load. And sometimes it's not going to be exact, motions, etc. Because, well, for example, for rows, right? When you want to be rowing, so for rowing movements, barbell rows, I know his back looks crazy here, but barbell rows is an awesome exercise for the rhomboids and the middle back and, for some certain lag activation, but we can't really be in a standing position. I don't think there's any position in calisthenics where we can be standing and be doing rows at the same time unless our body is horizontal, in which we're doing inverted rows. And I really recommend ring rows as they are more scalable than on a fixed bar instead. But overall, just have productive exercise selection and really think about your training secondhand. Like, is this really the appropriate exercise that will target the muscle group that I want? Reason number five, progressive overload. You are progressively overloading in the wrong way, which is probably by increasing reps. So chances are that when you want a progressive overload, you are just increasing by the reps and the volume and the sets, etc. I mean, that is the most mainstream common advice. But when you want to actually progressive overload and you actually get better at the movement in which you start doing 12, 15 reps, okay, add weight. Weight is a great way to progressive overload, right? And we're not going to be doing not volume overload, but rather, things we can actually change about it to actually make us fail in the 6 to 10 rep range so we can get stronger with each couple of sessions, right? So weight is a really great way. I'd say that's the number one way. The movement itself is also a really good way to progressive overload. So let's say, for example, that I've been doing sloppy pull-ups for like 10 reps and such, and I'm starting to get 13 reps, but I notice that I start kipping a lot, etc. I put myself at really strict pull-ups. So pull up to the bar for 1 to 2 seconds, pull myself down slowly, controlling the negative of the movement, right? Which actually in our muscular when we bring ourselves to failure there's actually three levels of strength, right? Which is isometric strength, negative concentric strength, and positive reps strength, right? Like when you're doing a barbell curl, for example, and you fail, you just fail. That's it. Positive reps, right? That's all you do. But when you do isometrics, like you hold the movement in the middle of the rep where it's hard and such, and then you control it down slowly of the barbell curl, right? Or the dumbbell curl, whatever. And so people give a lot of slack to pull-ups, like controlled pull-ups, but those are actually the way that we should be training overall because when we train to failure on pull-ups, that's also we should be doing it controlled movements so we can actually fail all the levels of muscular skeletal strength that's happening in that movement, right? And so those are the two ways. You can also adjust. Another thing is ring height, for example, and feet placement. For example, if you are doing, let me think of exercise, tricep extensions, right? Bodyweight tricep extensions. You want the move for bodyweight tricep extensions. If you want to make it easier, you actually put your feet, walk it more forward and such, and that makes the movement way easier. If you want to make it more difficult, you move your feet way more behind yourself, right? The ring height to progressively overload it is that you would put it lower without your elbows when you touching the floor and such, and you can get to it pretty difficult. And then elevation. But anyways, as I was saying, yeah, figure out what your feet ring height placement is and all those type of things, especially for this, This is also a pretty big thing. But you don't need to keep like you don't need to keep a notepad and make it sure to keep track of like all this, right? Because when you're training, you're just gonna get into the natural flow of it, of the exercise itself, and you just find yourself naturally finding the reps harder and harder, and so you'll fail in the 6 to 12 rep range before you even know it. Also, elevation. What do I mean by this? So, let's say for example that you want to make the bodyweight tricep extension harder, right? You would add the elevation because when you were on just on the floor with your feet and such, it was just easier that. But if you want to actually just make it such a more difficult movement, you can also do this with other exercises as well, as like ring bicep curls. Just add a more higher elevation to your feet, right? And these are the main ways to actually progressive overload with bodyweight movements and such, right? And regular push-ups as well, right? Regular push-ups make it weighted. You can also add elevation to it to regular push-ups as well. And honestly, that would just make the movement super harder, right? Figure out which one of these things can you apply. Well, most of them will actually apply to the exercise that you're doing for mostly calisthenic exercises anyways. Figure out what you want to do and that progressively overload by that. By weight is the most best option right here, but it is if you add weight to bodyweight tricep extensions, I recommend weighted vis, not backpacks because it'll fall on the back of the top of your head. But anyways, yes. Figure out which ways to do it and then yeah. Reason 6, bad nutrition. Athletes and fitness athletes and when we want to actually fuel our body with fuel, we can't just be eating trash stuff like donuts. We can't be drawing trash stuff like donuts. Let me draw a donut right here. Put some cinnamon on that, put some chocolate sprinkle. But anyways, yeah, the athlete who will have donuts compared to the person who had a steak. Now, the athlete who has the donut will actually have a worse training because the body uses the sugar as the fuel and there's just not, enough, not, it's not as anabolic as the steak itself, right? Compared to the athlete who does have the steak, which he has more energy for, and it's just something better, right? I'm not saying that you need to eat steaks every, before every training session is your pre-workout or post-workout meal, but you need to be eating good foods actually, and to actually just cut out all sugars, and you don't need to eat all that bad food. You know what I mean? And this is pretty self-explanatory, but the most problems people struggle with is consistency in itself and just stop eating bad foods, right? I would say that, of course we all struggle with that, but you need to actually work against the resistance and the cravings of sugary foods. If you want to actually solve that problem, I recommend going to a therapist or reading a few self-help books on discipline and like eating habits to actually, make yourself not, eat any of this junkiness right here, which is, the donut. But it does look good. I do love donuts, but rather have yourself actual fulfilling foods, right? The donut will have the same amount of calories as the steak, but is much more smaller, and it'll make you hungry more compared to the steak, which has the same amount of calories as the donut, but it'll make you feel more fulfilled and just a more good diet overall, right? Which is honestly super helpful. I drew a dude doing a planche. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys want my coaching services for calisthenics, please let me know down below and book a call with me if you guys are interested. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great day.